Thank you to panel one. I especially appreciated Jennifer's promotion of California to nation state status. Thanks, Jennifer. Love that. Okay, so I'm really pleased to introduce my colleague, the Distinguished Counsel of the Emmett Institute, Mary Nichols. Many of you may know her, of course, as the former chair of the California Air Resources Board, and she's going to introduce our lunch keynote. So thank you so much, Mary. Pleased to have you.
Well, thank you for that. I'm delighted to be the introducer of our lunch keynote. At the time this program was being put together, we had invited my former colleague and good friend, David Hochschild, to do this talk. And unfortunately, yesterday he came down sick, but he has sent a absolutely wonderful speaker to continue this conversation, and particularly the focus in California on these issues. Speaking for myself, as a longtime state official who had a role in almost all of these topics that were being discussed earlier here today, which I'm so excited about, I don't think I ever actually heard the term supply chain uttered until COVID. And then it was in the context of people who were trying to get things delivered, like a new refrigerator or get work done somewhere, and it wasn't going to be there because of the supply chain. Well, certainly California has responded quickly to that concern and the recognition of its impact on our economy by creating a position within the Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development dealing directly with supply chain. And the person who occupies that office, that position as the deputy director, is Trelynd Bradley. Trey is a former he has a very interesting career actually in this world. He's worked with the airports in Southern California. He's worked on sustainability and on issues around incentives and permitting and opportunity zones. Before he joined the state of California, he has also been involved in small business. In fact, I learned as a result of reading his bio that he is actually an owner of a small business that sells fireworks in Colorado. But we're going to forgive him that impact that he's been having on the environment because of all the other great work that he has done to help California develop some sustainable freight policies that recognize the supply chain concerns. So I would like to now ask Trey Bradley to come forward and give us the luncheon address.
All right, now with apologies again to Mary Nichols for making her do that introduction a little early. I'm now really happy to have us joined by Trey Bradley and really look forward to his remarks on the topic. So thanks so much for joining us, Trey.
Good afternoon, everyone, and I first want to apologize to Mary Nichols. I did have a morning meeting at the Port of Los Angeles. In traditional Los Angeles fashion, I was like, I have an hour and a half to get to Port of LA to UCLA, and of course, it took a lot longer than expected. But I want to thank Mary Nichols really, a ton. I've going all the way back to the Brown administration, and it was actually a result of that time that got me into this subject. And first I will say I am a student of UCLA right now. I'm at Anderson, so I actually see a couple of my classmates in my business environment class in the audience. I am a Troubadour, and so I really appreciate the opportunity here to speak at the school, but especially on this topic, which is so rapidly developing and evolving within the state. And just a little bit of rewind, I know that Chair Hochschild with the California Energy Commission was slated to speak. And we were actually just talking several days ago about how we had the very first meeting on the topic of Lithium Valley, which was in the final year of the administration for Governor Brown. And how did I end up in that meeting? Well, I ended up in that meeting because I was working on a small battery storage permitting project, and director at the time, who's Ken Alex, who's really revered in the climate world, as Mary is nodding her head. He kind of looked at this meeting with then Commissioner Hochschild, and he was just reading it, and he's like, oh, this is with lithium and stuff. He's like, Trey, you just go to this meeting. Lithium, and he's like, it's in batteries, so you just take this meeting. And then I was like, this is something way bigger than what just talking about batteries here. This is talking about completely building a new supply chain. And I think that's what is unique about the moment that we are in now in this topic specifically, is few times do you have in human history to completely rebuild and rethink entire supply chains in our global economy. And we are in a short period of time where, because of our climate goals, because of other goals around energy and independence and raw material independence, and these sorts of situations that we're now presented with the state and federal government widely, is that we are now making the shift to build these colossal supply chains within a short span of time, because a lot of pressing needs require it. And I believe, so is this for moving slides? So just a little bit to go over where we are in the critical material landscape within California. And you'll probably hear these words used interchangeably: critical material, critical mineral. They both have two different definitions. There are multiple federal agencies who have definitions of what a critical mineral and critical material is. But broadly, we do use the word critical material, and I'll talk a little bit about some of the ones that are not included on the DOE list that we do really consider critical in California, especially for the clean economy as well. Oh, the other one? There we go. Great, there we go. So, of course, I know this has already been shared in some vein, is that we are entirely reliant on these supply chains globally. We do not produce 14 of the critical minerals that were initially placed on the USGS's list. We're completely 100% reliant on import for their use case. And in California, this was really a key statistic and point that came out to us. And we've been working on this for a long time, this idea of rebuilding critical material supply chain. We saw the long-term runway from a state government perspective. We saw the long-term value proposition for all of the parties that were involved. The regions and territories which these projects are located, the business and industry, labor, and environment, around one centralized ecosystem in these types of resources and opportunities. And California has resource for potential for 34 out of 35 of them. We're really geographically and in most respects, we are geologically blessed because of the merging of the tectonic plates with just such a wealth of critical mineral resources. And it really started for the demand that was driven by the transition to the clean economy, which is our goals that we have within California to meet what our climate resilient future will be. And what are some of those goals? Really, a lot of them have been adopted by their resources board, and a lot of them have been a work of the legislature and result of multiple governors dating back multiple administrations now. And we've really built, a portfolio of climate ambition that is really pushing forward in the envelope and the need for the development of these supply chains in a sustainable way, but also the innovation to use them differently and do things differently than we've done before. And I'll be talking about that here in a moment. But some of the tremendous mandates that are happening right now. I mean, right now I just came for the Port of Los Angeles. There are thousands of drayage trucks that facilitate with just that one port. And that is one port. The Port of Los Angeles recently set a Western Hemisphere record during 2021 and moved 10.7 million containers. I think we did the tonnage metric. That's equivalent to I think 45 invasions of Normandy, during World War II. In 1 year at one of our ports, and we have 12 ports, in California. But there is a rule that the Air Resources Board with the Advanced Clean Fleets rule, starting this year, if you want to register a new drayage truck to facilitate goods with our ports, it must be zero emission. That started 2 months ago. So the ambition and goals are taking place and happening right now, and it's because we have a imperative goal to decarbonize on a scale that we have to achieve. We've spent so much time investing in fossil fuels, and we're really doing the complete transition. I'm saying, some people are saying some questions about permitting and things, why it's go faster. I'm like, we've spent centuries building up the entire architecture for something different, and then now we're doing it the opposite way in less than a couple decades. So, but we are moving, and building critical mineral supply chain is one of the key underlying foundations to making sure that we meet some of these goals in reality. Of course, this is just like a rocket ship right here, but you can see electric vehicle sales in California and the United States. California really the market leader. Electric vehicles, zero-emission vehicles broadly. We have 56 zero-emission vehicle manufacturers within California, and it is one of our primary exports as a state. For several years, it was our #1 export as a state. It really is, in terms of trade value, it really is, it has just grown so fast within the past 5 to 10 years. And when we're talking about critical materials and critical minerals, I always come in and speak about this topic. I've worked on this topic for many years now. And how many things that are just laying on your desk right now that have critical minerals and materials in them, you'd be shocked. For example, boron. I don't think people realize how important boron, but you've probably touched 10 items in your hand today that have boron in them, each of you, including your cell phones and your laptops. They all have boron in them. And California is one of the only suppliers in the world other than Turkey. And so really these resources are technically in every single thing that we use in our daily lives. It's not just a clean economy, it's semiconductors, it's aerospace and defense, it's alloys for our vehicles that are used by our military. It's the whole spread. And of course, the ones that you see highlighted here that are some of the recent ones that have been highlighted as critical, the ones that are in yellow are ones that have been produced or being produced or have been recently produced in California. Here's our list of active projects, and this list probably grows every couple of months. So at the end of this slide deck, I have a code where you can be able to go to a Google map that I keep as active as I possibly can, where we do track the projects in live. But most of these, I would say that when we do use the definition of active project is also exploratory and kind of opportune, seeing what the potential resource value is. Doesn't necessarily mean building or even drilling into the ground at all. But this is mainly to demonstrate the level of interest. And you can see the whole spread of materials. Lithium is the most dominant. We have, and I'll talk about that in a few slides here, but it is definitely the one that it appears the most because we have so many types of lithium resources. But also, really, rare earths is where we are a market leader. We are the #1 producing critical mineral state in the country. We are primarily because our rare earth operation, which is really where we started from a critical minerals perspective, and we were really trying to think about how do we build a long-term runway. This is a very long slide, but this is just a list. I just picked 5 or 6 of the critical minerals and all of the different things that it's used in. It's everything you can possibly think of. Our energy systems, the infrastructure that goes inside substations, all the equipment at our ports, the magnets that power every single thing that you use in your car, in your phone, in your laptop, and every single device that we have. There's a permanent magnet which has a neodymium in it, which is a rare earth. And so, if you buy an electric vehicle today in the market, it either has neodymium from China or California. There's no other place really that it is sourced from. And I'll talk about really how that was the first operation we targeted. So this is 2 years ago from now, but this is an event that the president hosted virtually. Governor Newsom joined. but is really a highlight of our critical mineral leadership. California was the only state to join in this event. President Biden made a $35 million award for the first light in this initial stage, a light and heavy rare earth separation facility at Mountain Pass, which is located in San Bernardino County. It is now today providing 15% of the global rare earth supply. And many of federal leaders have been to this project. It is, there's a 60 Minutes episode on it. I recommend everybody watch it. It's great. But this and also was highlighted at this event was Lithium Valley with the project with Berkshire Hathaway Energy down in the Salton Sea area as well. But really, the rare earth push was the first push that we made. We saw that this is the one that is probably the most vulnerable. And really, we had an enormous resource, but we also had a developer that was willing to utilize the resource, partner with state and federal government, and also do it in the most sustainable way possible. This rare earth operation is the most sustainable open pit mine in the world. It has dry tailings, it has no wastewater, it recycles all water that it uses, has invested hundreds and hundreds of millions into making itself as sustainable as it is. And of course, all the equipment that it's working in, it's transitioning to ZEV. That is, big heavy duty equipment that we have is really the last space of ZEV transition that we're all targeting right now. But there's the movement to use that type of equipment at this space. But rare earths are in everything. You can't build a zero emission vehicle without a rare earth magnet. And of course, wind turbines is also a huge need for rare earth magnets. But now China and California are basically the world producers of rare earths, and especially neodymium. And together we're over 75% of global production. The next is boron. Boron is California and Turkey are the leaders in the space. Like I said, it's a glass in every in every screen, every electric vehicle. Zero emission vehicle magnet, rare earth magnet, also has boron in it. You can't do it without boron. For those who may be familiar with boron, it's also like 20 mule borax when you go buy at a laundry detergent. I had never put two and two together, but I always kind of looked at that logo and never really understood what it was. But we've had a long history in utilizing this resource, and there's a lot of traditional movers in this space. But the largest operation is Rio Tinto, which has an open pit operation in Kern County, but is also the first, for example, in some of its sustainability practices and extraction, is the first to adopt, first use of several climate technologies, particularly on their vehicle fleet. And I think the next stage transition is they're looking and exploring with is hydrogen for the operation of those vehicles, just because the incredible amount of demand on the use of the equipment. And then, of course, there's lithium, which is the one that deservedly captures the most attention. And it is, because it is the capstone of all of our resources. It is the one that we are really putting most of the state behind and going and moving to the future. There are 5 types of lithium resources that are developed within California. The first is clays. So if you've heard about the Nevada projects, and you've heard about the projects in some of the other states nearby, they're harvesting a clay called hectorite. Hectorite is named after Hector San Bernardino. It is a small community in the high desert. We have a lot of hectorite clay. What is the primary use of this clay right now? Everyone will maybe laugh when I say this, but we've been to the operation. It's only extracted small quantities, but it's used in very high-end luxury makeups. And so we always laugh is that the highest bearing lithium resource in the planet is, basically being put as makeup on people's faces currently. But that is what it is currently used for. Has the highest ppm per amount, parts per million of lithium of any of our resources that we have. The challenge with it, and the challenge with the Nevada projects, is the environmental of it. You have to dump sulfuric acid to get the lithium on the product. And so that's really one thing that I think that we are interested in the state level. I think the federal government are interested in it, is how can we solve some of those questions from an R&D perspective. That's where the United States stopped investing. And then when all of these operations left the United States, the innovation left. The idea of thinking like, how do we do this industry more sustainably? How do we extract hectorite without dumping a ton of sulfuric acid on it, right? Nobody stayed and thought about that. They just said, ship the jobs overseas, ship the operations overseas. We're not in this business in the US anymore. And so that's really where we're trying to push the envelope, is how do we get folks in research and development at universities and at our labs to think about how do we do things differently. The other part is a really great operation at Rio Tinto, and it's actually the first case of lithium being produced within California. This is a great opportunity, but it's basically just taking old mine tailings that sit at the mine and recycling them and producing the lithium from the recycled mine tailings, and then using the rest of the waste to be put in things and used in the construction industry or other use cases. An amazing way of getting lithium that also just remediates leftover mining waste from the past. The other operation that we have is we have something about 25 dry lakes that do have lithium potential within California. We have a couple of operations in the high desert. We have an operation that is called 5E. It is a solution process where they are drilling down into the ore body, which exists deep in the earth, and just like a geothermal well, it's the same width as a geothermal pipe. They're essentially pushing a solution into the ore body and extracting the resource up. And so they would be pulling both boron and lithium. They will be the first operation in California to have commercial scale lithium on the market. They're publicly traded and have got their permits with the US EPA this year. And so they're moving very quickly, already have their operations set up, but their footprint is very small. If you were driving across the freeway, you would not even notice they're there. It's a completely tiny operation. And the reason being is they're doing it differently. They're not going to go dig from the top and just build a big hole in the ground. They're doing a small pipe all the way down to this deep, deep ore body under the earth, and then just extracting the resource from there. The 18 active projects we have include also the biggest projects of all, which is the ones that we want to, I'm sure many of you are all thinking about and reading about, but it is really not only is it the capstone project of our entire resource portfolio, but it is the one project that I see as the value to change completely this industry forever. And that is really the operation in Lithium Valley and the Salton Sea, because you have the opportunity not only to go down and grab the resource, but you have the opportunity to do it and generate clean, renewable energy at the same time. It's incredible how unique that we have this. We talk to so many other states in business and economic development, and they all are just like, California, how did you get this? They're just kind of like, you get Silicon Valley, and you have this lithium resource, which is like you had gold way back in the day, and now you have this lithium resource where you can just bring it up with clean power, because it's so unbelievable to them that it's possible. But that's really what is possible here. And so there's 3 operations on the Salton Sea, and so they are going down into a geothermal reservoir, which is under the sea itself. It's separate from the sea, but right next to it, and they are pulling lithium directly from geothermal brine. And just to talk about that one, there's, like I said, 3 companies, but the amazing thing is it not only has the capacity to meet up 40% of global demand. There's a report that came back, I'm sure folks have heard about it, but it was with Lawrence Berkeley Lab, done with UC Riverside and several other universities in New Zealand. And it was really the piece that came out and said this resource is even bigger than people initially estimated. It has enough to meet not only the 300 million vehicles in the United States currently today, but another 75 million on top of that, 375 million, replace all the vehicles with electric vehicle batteries within the US. The resource is absolutely enormous, and the opportunity is unlike anything else we've ever had. So we have the first commercial scale facility permitted and underway, and there's, of course, major offtake agreements with Ford, General Motors, Stellantis, and others. And so what are some of the state initiatives that we have done? So we're the first state to statutorily create a commission on a critical mineral. We are the first state to have the legislature and the governor come together and create a government commission around this important resource for the clean economy. No other state has done that yet, but a lot of states are looking to us. A lot of people are actually seeing the Lithium Valley Commission, and I see, remember the Lithium Valley Commission, who was one of the leaders, who was really one of the vocal voices on that commission here in the room today. But so many people are looking to the commissioners and the people and the chairs who led this commission, and then also the work of it as a model that they can replicate. It's not just states in the US, but I would argue it's also places around the world. And It is focused on that specific resource. It's led out of the California Energy Commission, includes a lot of different stakeholders within the commission, and it lays the foundation for that long-term project runway for the area. And they published a report. I encourage everybody to read it. I do have a link to it at the end of this, and the recommendations that it has, which are really some of the things that are the next steps. If you should go see the 60 Minutes episode on Lithium Valley, that's the one thing is 60 Minutes really likes to cover our projects. So they've covered our rare earth operation, they've covered several other operations in critical minerals. I think they've covered the rare earth operation like 3 times now. But they did a great episode this past year in Lithium Valley. And you know, I won't put it on it. I know that everybody's saying budget deficit in their minds and out loud right now, but the thing about California is we are very cyclical. The stock market performs well, our budget performs well. It's the nature of it is. But the budget that we had several years ago is so enormous, and we're still implementing projects, and the runway for that budget and one-time budget investment is the largest budget of a state in U.S. history. Is we're still making investments, including in areas and projects here related to that initial budget. So I know everyone's thinking that now, no one's thinking about the budget of a few years ago. It's hard to kind of talk to people about the budget of the past, but in the world of government, you know, and world of working in the space of contracting and implementation, we'll still be implementing projects from this budget years ahead. And it's so enormous, and the impact will be felt not just now, but in future years. State is investing across all of the battery supply chain. Here's some of the companies just listed here, raw materials and processing to production. And that's what I'll say is the stage from a lithium to a battery is very long. There's a lot of pieces in between. There's cathode, there's anode. To make lithium carbonate, you need soda ash. You need a lot of different pieces. It needs to move around. But the thing that value that we're making as a state is how can we do it differently? Can we do it differently? Can we not have a supply chain where this resource extends across ships and planes all across the world and creates a ton of emissions? Why can't we make the batteries right near where we're taking the resource within the communities where this resource lies? And that is really the vision that we have been trying to share out there with companies and firms. And it's a uniqueness because California has to be competitive. From a business environment, we are sometimes a little bit more expensive, but to counterbalance that, we have a workforce and infrastructure for workforce development like no other state in the nation. And on top of that, we also have a disadvantage. If you all are following the Inflation Reduction Act, we don't have that many coal communities. We actually have one census tract that had a coal-fired power plant, but we're not the Appalachian and some of the Gulf areas. Some of our western states, we do not qualify for energy communities under the definition of having a coal-fired power plant or a coal mine within the last 20 years. So we're at a little bit of a disadvantage in some of this climate funding as a state, which has been a little bit, as part of the deal making with Manchin and others, I'm sure, at the end of the road. But for us in California, we have to think about strategically how do we make the value proposition to build more electric vehicle supply chain and manufacturing. How do we build that value proposition without having something like that? And that's why we have the material resource to be able to supply you for the long term and to be able to do it right near where it's taking out. And there's a ton of benefits of that. I'm sure some of the companies will share with you. But, for example, if you locate right next to the lithium operation, you can pipe the lithium over as a liquid form. You don't have to take it out and then put it with soda ash and then ship it in big blocks and throw it on a train or throw it on a truck. So it becomes a lot more expensive and it becomes a lot more bad for the environment. So how do we make that, how do we share and push that message more broadly? How do we be able to build the coalition around that idea? We talk to these automakers all the time, and we talk to every single one of them. We talk to the large folks in the industry, the Panasonics, the LGs of the world. We're constantly facilitating and entertaining those deals and what they might be. But some of those things that they say to us is like, look, we're trying to convince the industry to do something they have never done before. Some of them are always gonna do the thing that they've done before, right? They're always gonna make the battery right near where the car was. They've always only known it one way. And that's what one mission that we've been trying to do is how do we convince them to do it differently? Because now we have the opportunity to do that, and some of the incentive structure is trying to be built to be able to do it that way. Future opportunities is we did last year, held the first California Critical Material convening in Palm Desert. We had a California-Mexico summit where we definitely talked about this resource. I will say this, that of the 5 critical minerals under the IEA, which are rare earths, graphite, cobalt, nickel, lithium, Southern California is probably the only place in the world where you can find all 5 of them within probably a 600-mile radius, and it's really because of Mexico. So Sonora and Baja Norte and Sur have cobalt and nickel and then graphite resources. So partnership with these sub-national governments is going to be key to decarbonization. And it's not a matter of, we take resource to this. It's like you can build all of the supply chain within a 500-mile radius. You can do cathode here, you could do anode here, you could do battery cells here, you could do vehicles here. And of course, all of the investment that exists within the federal acts. So here's a link. It has the link to my Google map where you can actually click on the projects and see what they look like physically. You want to see what they look like within their communities. You also there's links to the companies and you can see what they're doing. It also has a link to the Energy Commission's report. And then of course, our critical mineral overview within the state of California. We do at GO-Biz have a overview, a packet that explains all the resources and some of the information provided here. So I thank you so much for your time. I'm happy to take any questions.